Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Beck, here to present the Award for Program Excellence. We are very pleased to recognize two outstanding programs this year. For 17 years, our first awardee's Urban Agriculture Division has become deeply embedded in its city's food system, growing from a single farm site to its current 16. They have built a series of programs that uplift communities by increasing food access and annually training 130 teens, 35 justice-involved individuals, 20 farm apprentices, and 110 participants in continuing education. The farms are located in communities with high rates of food insecurity and provide food to residents through reduced price sales, donations, and affordable community markets, increasing the availability of locally grown food. The American Public Gardens Association is pleased to present this year's first Award of Program Excellence to the Chicago Botanic Gardens Windy City Harvest Program. This year's second awardee is a program launched in 2013 as a means of making membership to this free admission garden more meaningful and valuable. Through an annual Children's Garden Festival, thousands of families experience the wonder and excitement of reading in a unique and immersive festival that promotes children's interest in plants and gardening with artistic creations that spark their imagination. More than 40,000 guests have enjoyed this festival to date, and each year, volunteers contribute an average of 1,000 festival hours. And during the 10-day festival, the garden sells twice as many memberships than the rest of the season. The American Public Gardens Association is pleased to present this year's second Award of Program Excellence to the Bringing Books to Life Festival at the Myriad Botanical Gardens in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
I'm Jamie Riccio, Member Development Manager at the American Public Gardens Association, and I will be your staff representative during this virtual conference session. Before we begin, here are a couple of tips to get the most out of your virtual conference experience. First, if you are experiencing poor video or audio quality, we suggest closing other programs on your computer, especially other browser tabs. Your inbox will still be there at the end of the session, I promise. If you have any other problems or questions, association staff are available to help. Give us a call at 610-708-3010 or send us an email at info@publicgardens.org. Second, while this session has been pre-recorded, the presenters are here with us today as panelists and will be happy to take questions in the live question and answer portions of the session. At some point during this session, the presenters may activate a poll. Poll responses are anonymous, so be sure to let us know how you really feel. Finally, you can submit your questions using Zoom's Q&A function that you will find in your Zoom toolbar. Questions can be submitted anonymously. You can also upvote other questions to indicate you would like to hear them answered. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the live Q&A portion of this session. Some questions may be answered directly through the Q&A feature. Thank you and enjoy today's session.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Becoming Audience-Centric, Innovations in Membership and Audience Engagement. My name is Rosie Seamer, and I'm the founder and CEO of 5Seed. You know, few people have the opportunity to build their career around their passion, and for me, I have had the opportunity to blend my love of arts and culture into my work in behavioral science with museums and cultural organizations. And that's really been a wonderful thing for me and a great opportunity. I'm privileged to be here with you all today, and I'd like to give a special thank you to the APGA team for all of their hard work and making this possible for us to gather together to share ideas and collaborate virtually. So big thank you to APGA. Today, we're going to be talking about how cultural organizations can reach and cultivate new members by becoming more audience-centric. And I'm delighted to introduce my colleagues. With me today are Grace Miles, Interim Deputy Director of Institutional Advancement at Newfields. Grace, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I'm Grace. I've been at Newfields a little over 6 years now. Most of the time while I've been there, I've been focused on membership. Before coming to Newfields, I worked in a variety of arts organizations in Seattle, primarily on communications, fundraising, and sales strategy.
Thanks so much, Grace. And I'd like to also introduce Caroline Ralston, Director of Marketing, Communications, and Membership at Mount Cuba Center. Caroline, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Rosie. I'm excited to be here. I've only been at Mount Cuba since the start of the year, but before joining Mount Cuba as their Director of Marketing, Communications, and Membership, I worked at an aquariums, and I also worked in agencies and book publishing. So quite a variety of roles across communications, marketing, and related fields.
So today you're going to hear these two stories about two organizations that are very forward-thinking, that invested in comprehensive research studies to uncover and understand audience motivations and needs in order to address barriers to participation and to attract new audiences. So I'm really excited to have you hear their stories today. Well, it's no secret that the cultural sector is undergoing historic shifts in audience demographics and mindset. And we're also challenged with significant barriers to participation from new audiences. And at the same time, we are seeing increasing competition for leisure time. Additionally, a lot of organizations are struggling with increasing operating costs and declining membership programs. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated these challenges. It's upended the traditional value proposition of membership, and it has created an increased uncertainty in terms of financial health for a lot of organizations. As you're listening to the stories of Newfields and Mount Cuba today, I'd like you to keep this question in your mind. How might we think differently about membership given the current social, economic, and public health crises? I think we have a profound opportunity in front of us to be more intentional about how we connect with audiences going forward, and also to design and think about what we want our organizations to look like in the future. In many cases, the pandemic has created a space for us to connect with audiences in a richer, more meaningful way. In some cases, new audiences have found their way to our websites and to our social media content and engaged with us for the first time digitally. And I think it's also important to understand and acknowledge the reality that some of our traditional audiences, our members and our visitors, may never again participate in the same ways that they once did. So how are we going to stay relevant and remain connected to them in the future? For me, I really think that this is a critical moment for cultural organizations, that we have this greenfield opportunity to think differently about how we want our audiences to engage with us. We have a chance to adapt to better serve our communities, to create social impact, to extend our missions, and to develop new sustainable revenue models. And in the spirit of thinking differently and sparking innovation, I'm thrilled to share with you that we're going to be giving away a few copies of my new book, Museum Membership Innovation. So stay tuned till the end of the session when we'll be able to announce the winners. And before we dive in today, I'd like to share a few definitions that I think will be helpful for key research and behavioral economics concepts that Grace and Caroline are going to be touching on in their discussion today. The first, conjoint analysis. This is a product and pricing research method that helps us to understand consumer preferences, assess price sensitivity, and predict adoption of new products. Conjoint analysis is a statistically valid technique for testing pricing and understanding willingness to pay. The way that it works is it allows us to simulate the trade-offs that people make in the real world when they're deciding how to spend their money. The decoy effect is the introduction of a third option into the choice set that helps to nudge customers towards selecting a particular product by making one option look better than the others. So if you're anything like me, you're always going to upgrade and be nudged toward buying the bigger bucket of popcorn because it's only a few cents more and you get so much more value out of it. And for me, there's never such thing as too much popcorn. The jobs to be done theory is a way of describing the underlying motivations behind the purchase decisions that we make. Harvard Business School professor Theodore Levitt liked to say that people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill. What they want is a quarter-inch hole. And so the jobs to be done theory is a way for us to step back and think about the goals and needs of the audience and the customer so that we can be more intentional and strategic about how we design our marketing, our products, and our experiences to meet those needs. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Caroline to tell us more about her work at Mount Cuba.
Thanks, Rosie. So I'd like to welcome you all to Mount Cuba Center. For those of you who aren't familiar with Mount Cuba, we're based in Hockessin, Delaware. We're part of America's Garden Capital, which is 36 gardens within 30 miles of Philadelphia. We've only been opened for general visitation for 7 years. So we're one of the, I think, newest gardens around. We were a private estate once that has been now converted to a botanical garden. What we specialize in are native plants and how native plants are beneficial to habitats and ecosystems. So what you see here in this picture is our formal gardens, but they're actually planted with different flowers and plants that are native to the Piedmont region. And you can see here in spring on the left and fall is on the right. Beyond our beautiful gardens, and you'll see some more pictures here throughout, we also do a lot of conservation and research. We're really well known for our trial garden and releasing reports on what native plants perform best in the region, which plants attract the most pollinators. We also do a lot of land preservation. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have a robust education program. And many students come to Mount Cuba to learn about horticulture. So that's Mount Cuba. But what I'm really here to talk about today is our new membership program. So when Mount Cuba opened for general visitation, shortly thereafter, we began offering season passes, which was great, but we really wanted to form a deeper connection with our audiences and our most enthusiastic audiences, which were the season pass holders. and look towards how do we build that relationship over time, rather than it's just a season, it's 1 year and they're gone. We wanted something that was evolving. So we built a membership program from the ground up. And what's really unique about ours is we spent a lot of time looking through research and talking to potential audiences and existing audiences to understand what makes them tick and what did they really want in a membership and what were some of the things holding them back from potentially coming to a botanical garden or engaging in a membership with us or another cultural institution. We realized that we needed some help doing this. We were very green to working with the general public to begin with, since we had only recently opened, and we really recognized that we needed an expert to help walk us through this. So we did partner with 5 Seed and Rosie to build this program. And I can't emphasize enough that we haven't even completed a full year of this program. So this is very much a pilot year, but what I want to do is give you a snapshot of something that's possible and something that so far is really working for us. To understand our membership program, you really need to start by understanding the sizes we offer. So we have an individual plus level and we have a dual plus level, and that's it. We might add some more in the future after surveying and asking and seeing if there's a need. But based on our research, these are the sizes that our audience was looking for. And it being our pilot year, I kind of mentioned that things may change and things may evolve. And that's already happening. So in talking to our former season pass holders who have since converted to become a member, they shared with us that some of our terminology and language was confusing to them. And so we kind of pried a little more to understand what they were getting at. And originally, when we launched the membership program last September, we were calling the 2-person level 4-2, and then there's a level for up to 4, and we were calling it 4-4. And that was really confusing because people kept saying, but I just want a membership for me. I just want one. And that's what we were trying to express with the 4-2. So it's really 1 card holder plus a guest. And the dual plus is 2 card holders plus 2 guests, or 1 card holder plus 3 guests. You can modify it as you'd like. And now that we've changed the language, we actually haven't heard any confusion or negative feedback. So that's good. Once you decide how many people you want on your membership, then you can decide what level you want. So our basic level is called the Escape Package, and it has several things that you're going to see on many of your cultural institutions' membership packages, the guest passes, unlimited admission, things like that. But something that's quite unique is a discount on lift rides. So in the early stages of researching what potential members really wanted, especially in new emerging audiences that we weren't traditionally attracting, travel was a barrier. It wasn't necessarily the distance, it was mode of transportation. So with untraditional audiences, we wanted to find ways to break down those barriers. And so we added the Lyft discount in for a variety of programs, and we will be measuring that later this summer. So hopefully I have another update for you at next year's conference on how it went. And then there's some other things that potential members expressed in the research. They wanted some type of cafe or dining benefit. And while Mount Cuba doesn't offer that, we can offer some nice snacks and a free drink for every visit for a member. And so that's something we were able to work in as well. So that's how that shapes up. And then depending on whether you want an individual plus or a dual plus is when you can move up in those price points. The next 2 levels up are quite interesting because the Explore package, and Rosie kind of alluded to this is our decoy effect. So the Explore package was designed to offer a little bit more incentive. And if you go to that level, what you get above the previous Escape package is 10% off our Ecological Gardening Certificate course, which is something that people expressed a lot of interest in. However, if you compare the price of the Explore package to the Engage package and see how much more you get out of the Engage package, you're like, why wouldn't I go all the way up? And so that's called the nudge technique. So it's designed to encourage people to go up one more level because it's only $10 more. So why wouldn't I want, some behind the scenes experiences and member only events and a free native plant. So it's been very effective for us, and you'll see that here. So orange on my screen is the base level escape. The explore is that mid-level. The decoy effect is nudging everyone up to the engage level, which is the top level membership. So you can see we are moving people up to a higher level pretty effectively. So another slide I wanted to share, obviously COVID-19 and its effect on our organizations is top of mind right now. So I wanted to kind of break down some initial membership sales pre-COVID and then year over year. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. So when we went from a season pass to a membership, we increased prices pretty significantly, nearly doubled them, what you would have paid for a season pass compared to what you now pay for a membership. And that can be a little nerve-wracking. I mean, I've worked at institutions where any kind of price increase is a very strategic decision, and it makes for a lot of hand-wringing. And we weren't sure how people were going to respond to our price increase. But what's interesting is after doing the research, we recognized that we were pretty, well, significantly underpriced. So it was time not only for a jump, but a jump that's significant enough. And if you can match it with the value of the package people are buying into, it's going to work. And so we listened to the experts and took a leap of faith and tried something new, and it really did work. So leading up to mid-March, we were double our sales, what they had previously been. To put that in light, instead of selling $9,000 worth of memberships, we were now at roughly $18,000 worth of revenue through memberships. But still, that's a significant jump for an organization that's really green to memberships. And we recently started marketing memberships again. And in the past 2 weeks, we've seen more sales by week than we ever have in membership. So people are, I think, hungry to engage again, and they're very eager to adopt in. So when I created this slide last week, we were slightly behind, and I'm happy to report now that we are neck and neck. So our sales are coming right back, and that's very exciting for us. And what's interesting is, yeah, we're selling less memberships, but making more revenue from it. So my key takeaways from this presentation, I kind of just talked about the revenue component, but don't be afraid to try something new. And as long as you have the research behind your decision making, it can be very financially beneficial to try something new and take that leap of faith. And also, at several organizations where I've worked, it seems like you build up and build up and build up towards launching something new, and you feel like you've made this and you can never change it, and it's written in stone, and that's not the way it is. You really do need to continually evolve and change, and listen to your audiences. We have a significant survey plan coming up soon where we can find out, did members really get the value that they thought they got that they wanted out of their membership? And if they haven't, and there's something else that we're lacking and they want, how can we meet those needs? So just keep changing and evolving and meeting the needs of your audience. You need to keep it fresh. And the last thing it's just a word of caution. I hear a lot, so many people have complained about X, Y, or Z. Avoid that squeaky wheel and actually back up decisions you're making with real data. Understand, find ways to actually document how many times someone has complained about a particular issue before you jump and make a change. Data is really going to be your roadmap for building a successful program. And that's it from me.
Thanks so much, Caroline. And now let's turn it over to Grace.
Thanks, Rosie. I'm glad to be here today to share some of the work that Newfields has done on audience research and how that affects our membership and fundraising programs. You might wonder, what is Newfields? Newfields is a name for the campus that includes the Indianapolis Museum of Art, a historical property known as the Lily House, the garden, a 52-acre Olmsted designed property, and the Virginia B. Fairbanks Art and Nature Park, which is a 100-acre green space with site-specific art installations. Known simply as the Indianapolis Museum of Art until just a few years ago, we struggled with the reality that although we had all these great resources to share with our community, most people in Indianapolis were not aware of them. On top of that, they perceived the museum as boring, unchanging, and intimidating. Museums everywhere are struggling with declining attendance as the needs and interests of potential guests evolve. Although the IMA had a stellar reputation for programming internationally, our local audience was unimpressed. By the time Charles Venable signed on as the Melvin and Bryn Simon Director and CEO in 2013, we were drawing an irresponsible amount from our endowment each year and facing an uncertain future. Right away, Charles worked with the board to change our mission to put people first and put art and nature on equal footing. Our mission is now to enrich lives through exceptional experiences with art and nature. In 2015, we closed the garden perimeters and required visitors to come in through one entrance, paying an admission fee. As a result, membership grew significantly and we were able to gather real data about how guests used the garden for the first time. We then received a grant from the Lilly Endowment to complete an extensive study designed to put us on a sustainable path forward. That included audience research, rebranding, business unit and earned income analysis, a campaign feasibility study, and a 30-year master plan. The first study we completed was an audience segmentation study with the Halverson Group in Chicago. They did a comprehensive quantitative survey alongside qualitative research. Through this, they were able to determine what percentage of the general population we may be able to reach, dividing it into segments of members, affinity, movable middle, trier rejectors, and art garden averse. They then startled us awake by showing us what percentage of our visits were coming from each group. 93% of the museum's visits were made by 16% of the population. This meant that 57% of Indianapolis residents could become potential visitors if we could just convince them to come. The Halverson research didn't look at the wants and needs of traditional demographic segments, but instead focused on what they refer to as jobs to be won. Their research looked to define what people were hoping to achieve through their leisure time choices. Setting aside eating, Hoosiers love to eat, Halverson identified 8 distinct motivation groups. The IMA audience was largely driven by purposeful pause and mental reboot motivations. Looking at the 50 million leisure time decisions made in Indianapolis each year, Halverson identified how many were associated with each motivation. This helped us determine some key areas where we could add programming that would help inspire visits, specifically purposeful play, pure fun, and social celebration. Our studies also suggested, and this seems obvious, that maximizing income would require us to inspire visitors to make multiple visits per year. The less obvious part for a museum was that we might do that through seasonal programming. These 2 colorful charts are ways of visualizing this concept in terms of attendance and net revenue per attendee. We've worked to develop and launch a new season each year over the past few years, starting with spring blooms, then winter lights, and most recently harvest. Summer's coming soon. As our seasonal programs have taken shape, we've looked to the garden world to help define what these experiences look like. Also, because we like food so much in Indiana, we added a culinary arts program. You might be wondering, what does all this mean for membership? Newfields has a pretty basic membership program. As we were doing all this research, I was dying to develop a brand new type of membership that would reflect our creative new identity. But no matter how I looked at it, I didn't see a way to structure it that made more sense than what we already had. Levels are tied to the number of admission tickets available per day, and benefits include the usual discounts at the store, cafe, and on programs. We can see the process I've described here reflected in the member numbers over time pretty clearly. We had a dip during the time when we were between leaders and lacking direction. We did a few blockbuster shows, Matisse and Dream Cars, in 2014 and 2015, and we started charging admission in 2015. In 2017, we launched the Newfields brand. In that year, we also changed our organization-wide stretch goal from being membership-related to being admission-related. At that point, we stopped doing membership promotion and focused on inspiring our members to visit more often. This seems to be a sweet spot, and we've maintained memberships around this level for the past few years, until this March, of course. We are starting to see the need to revisit our member program structure as our new identity takes root. As the Newfields brand solidifies and seasonal programs evolve, membership benefits and offerings have started to seem less relevant. Interests in the core audience are expanding and evolving as members join based on interest in seasonal rather than traditional art programming. And the interests of our longtime core members are turning out to be more broad than we originally thought. It turns out everyone loves winter lights. Membership falls under the advancement department in Newfields, and we look at its success in terms of relationship building as well as the revenue it generates directly. What we're finding is that while membership is traditionally thought of as a pipeline for donors and major gifts, that is not happening consistently in our own program. There are now multiple points of entry for potential supporters, and we have a screening and qualifying mechanism in place to build relationships with members, as well as seasonal program, culinary arts events, and other public program attendees. As we start the process of revising our program, we're gathering feedback and data to address the following questions. What are we trying to achieve by having a membership program? What's the correct mix of membership admission and paid tickets? Do members really have a higher lifetime value than admission ticket purchasers? What can we learn through further study of motivations for joining and giving? And if we can build relationships with people who come in through multiple points of entry, do we even need a membership program?
Thanks so much, Grace. That was wonderful. And I'd like to pick back up on that very bold question that you concluded with about whether or not we even need membership. I know that you've explained that there's a lot that's going into that institutional investigation, and it's more about determining how, what the priorities of the program should be and how you're going to actually fit that in with everything else and where it makes sense. So Caroline, I'd love to kind of put forward that question to you in terms of how does membership fit within Mount Cuba's broader institutional revenue model, and what do you think the value of these new members will bring to Mount Cuba?
Sure. So membership at Mount Cuba, we do see a significant revenue benefit. The thing with general admission is it kind of ebbs and flows throughout the year. And since we're still only 7 years old in welcoming the general public and growing, it's not a science by any means to predict that. So with membership, it's nice to know when you're budgeting, okay, this is a member for the next 12 months. I know that I'm counting on that revenue. Whereas the average general admission guest, studies show, come every 18 months. So I'd rather not wait and have that kind of lapse between visitation. I'd rather count on the revenue. That said, with most institutions, general admission is what keeps the lights on. When you look at your pie chart of where all your revenue streams are, general admission takes the cake. But you shouldn't discount the potential of membership, and that there is a significant piece of that pie that you want to take advantage of and help grow. With Mount Cuba, we don't see it membership ever surpassing the revenue we get from general admission, but the value is we are growing a relationship with a very tuned in audience that wants to help Mount Cuba grow and support our conservation initiatives. So we see a bright future there. We're not quite at trying to nurture members into future donors, but at some point down the road, we want to look into that as well.
And Grace, we've talked a little bit about pricing strategy throughout the presentation today. Can you share with us a little bit about your philosophy in terms of how membership should be priced? There are lots of ways to go about it, and just generally kind of what you all are thinking about in terms of future-oriented strategies for how membership fits into the revenue model.
Gosh, I think the answer to that question kind of depends on what the purpose of your membership program is. If you are looking for a really solid base for revenue, I think pricing it so that there's an obvious value is important. if you're looking for kind of a group of people who are indicating a real interest in what you're doing and a desire to support you, pricing it on kind of the higher end, like more like closer to the 3 visits per year price line, or even above at that point. I really think that when you start to have as many members as Newfields has, it becomes a little difficult to talk to people in a specific way. Like, there are always going to be people who are making a decision on a transactional basis. I think we should have a product for them. I think we should have something that has value that they can opt into. But I also think we need to find something that is sort of more distinct as this membership specifically, that leads more toward becoming a donor or a planned gift donor in time.
So we know that the pandemic is ongoing, and there's a lot on everybody's plates right now, and it's a very tentative time, a lot of uncertainty. Can you both share with us a little bit about what you're focused on right now in terms of membership, and kind of where the program is at, given the closures and the reopening plans that everyone is looking forward to? Just maybe, Caroline, if you could start and just share with us a little bit about what you're focused on right now as you look ahead with regard to your membership program.
Sure thing. So our immediate next steps are, in 2 days, we will open our gates for the first time since, this year, because we don't open for visitation until April 1. So we haven't had any guests at all this year. So we will open in 2 days to members only for a week. And then we will open for general admission visitation on June 17th. So right now, there's a lot of excitement and activity here, just getting things situated. So we have a new one-way direction through the gardens and guest flow, so members can come back and feel safe. Beyond that, since our earliest members joined this past September when we first launched the new program, they never had an opportunity to really visit. I mean, they maybe got in one visit at the end of last year, but they missed spring, and we felt terrible about that. And so we decided that all memberships would be extended for a full year starting this Wednesday. So we're really giving them a bonus of several months just so that they can experience a spring in the gardens next year. And we're working on a variety of other benefits and incentives for them right now. So behind the scenes experiences, and other ways to enjoy the gardens and really get some added member benefits for being our first early adopters of this program. We're also getting ready for our first round of surveying to see how members are responding to the new program, and also to understand if there's season pass holders who didn't transition and adopt, what was that barrier. So maybe we can address it. So there's a lot in the works, and this fall, we'll be evaluating the whole program to decide if there are changes that need to be made, if Lyft rides are really something that people are taking advantage of, things like that.
We've really been focused a lot on the logistics of reopening lately. Messaging for members, ticketing, the way that people move through the experience, how they come in and out even of the building. Everything's going to be different for them when they come back, and we're hoping that we were hoping it was going to be next week, but it's looking more like it might be a few weeks from now. In addition to that, we're focusing on a digital member and donor engagement plan. We're not going to be able to have any member or donor events through the end of 2020. We're going to be focused entirely on our core programming, like Winter Lights and Harvest, and we have a Hopper exhibition opening soon. So we don't want to leave people hanging for too long, basically. So we're working on not so much like a standard social media type digital engagement program, but how can we have programs on Zoom? How can we set people up to walk through the garden with a horticulturist, or how can we have a curator take members through an exhibition? We also extended everybody's membership. So we've added 4 months, which will represent all the time that people missed. And there's kind of a little bit of logistical action needed to make all that happen in the database and have everybody set up when they get back. So it's, even though we're not there, it's certainly a busy time.
So I'd love to hear from you both if there are any ideas that you're exploring at your own institution, or maybe that you've heard about at other organizations, that you think has some real potential to be scaled and perhaps even monetized even after reopening, that is some sort of digital or virtual or social distance type of experience that might be able to help us connect with audiences, you know, even if they don't feel comfortable coming on site. So maybe we could start, Grace, with you.
We've been working on a digital donor and member engagement plan. It's not your traditional social media plan, but more of a series of events that members and donors will be invited to help them build relationships with sort of the content experts at Newfields. It's not really, you can't really directly monetize that. At least we haven't considered how we might, but it hopefully will have an income effect in some way as we build relationships with people.
So here at Mount Cuba, we have always offered educational horticulture classes and different educational opportunities. But in light of COVID-19, we found that people can't come. They don't want to be in close proximity to somebody else inside of a classroom. So we had to pivot fairly quickly and learn how to do online learning, which didn't come naturally to us. And I think we're doing it really well so far. We've offered a number of classes online, and several of them sold out, which sounds kind of crazy because it's an online class. How does it sell out? Well, it turns out there are a limited amount of licenses some of these platforms use, and we wanted to go through a very secure platform. So it's exciting that we're actually able to reach more people in a sense now who might not be limited by their geography to drive to Mount Cuba and take a class, but that they can take a class anywhere. And so far the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and this is definitely a revenue stream that we're going to continue to grow and see where it goes.
Well, thank you both for sharing your experiences and your expertise with us today. We'd like to throw up a poll here for the attendees. So we'd like to find out from you what types of digital content or other virtual social distancing experiences has your garden experimented with during closure to engage with audiences?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. So if you'll go ahead and fill out this poll here, and then we're going to head right into a few minutes of live Q&A. I see that everyone has been adding some questions into the Q&A dialog box, so we'll get to some of those. And I'm not sure if the poll is working or not. We might just skip that for today and move on to some questions. So I've seen in the Q&A box a few questions, Caroline, around the Lyft benefit that you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're implementing that right now, and kind of what, maybe just reiterate what led to that as a solution?
Absolutely. So currently, once you become a member, you'll actually receive an email, and that email will contain, depending on what level you opt in at, it will give you, the poll results just popped up.
There they are.
It'll give you a code to use with Lyft. Right now, the Lyft rides are only discounted for certain programs at Mount Cuba. Right now, we are doing certain outdoor programs, including, like, for example, we're doing family yoga, we're doing story time for kids, things like that, where you can safely social distance. And as we expand that and do more programming, we'll be able to expand on the Lyft rides. So we will be measuring it soon, and that's basically how it works. How we came to that was the travel barrier. So people expressed through surveying that they couldn't get to Mount Cuba because they didn't have transportation. And so that's why we thought Lyft might be a good solution.
Grace, maybe you can speak to this question about how members correlate or not with your annual campaign donors. Do you see some crossover there, or are your members donating?
Yeah, so our members, a lot of them, the rest of the question says, do they feel they've paid their dues? And I think a lot of them do, and we actually recognize membership dues as tax-deductible donations. So they really, in essence, are all annual donors to some extent. But we do several times a year offer opportunities for donors to make an additional gift. And that program, it's very small compared to our membership income. That is usually about $110,000, $120,000 a year compared to 1.5 in the actual membership dues. So there isn't a huge ton of crossover, but that pool of people who do make an annual gift are really identifying themselves as people who we want to get to know better. They often turn into really good candidates for planned gifts.
Right. And it looks like that poll didn't allow us to select more than one option, so sorry about that. But it looked like a lot of folks were plugging in that virtual tours, video, online classes, and live events were something that everyone had been trying. Caroline, are you charging for your online classes?
We are. And we are testing different pricing models right now to understand how much people are willing to pay. But so far, it's working. I mean, like I said, we had one class that we ended up having to offer 3 times because it just kept selling out. Ground covers, just so you know, it was popular.
That's great. And Grace, are you all doing any paid online classes or events?
Nope. Everything that we're offering online is free at this point.
Okay. Well, I know that we're getting close to time. I'd like to encourage everybody to continue the discussion. If you have additional questions for myself, Grace, or Caroline, you can reach any of us at our email addresses. And I know that APGA is having a bit of a live discussion section on the virtual conference chat area. So feel free to send us some additional questions there. We'd be happy to get as many answered as we can. And I think we have a couple books to give away. So I'm gonna just announce those winners really quickly. And then I'll wait and see if we have more time. Joan, you can keep me honest on time here. So it looks like today's winners, so we're gonna give away 3 books. I have Claire Sawyer's, Kaylee Morris, and Lori Boxdance. So I will reach out to each of you individually via email and get your shipping information so that we can get your books sent out. I guess we could keep going with questions if we need to be cut off with the hook. I guess we can have Joan step in. Let's see, other questions here. Follow up on the Lyft question. Caroline, the question is, did you have Lyft partner with you? Do you pay them? So maybe a little bit more around the logistics of it. I know it's still an in-progress type of a benefit, but there's some curiosity around that.
And that's a fantastic question. It was worked out before I started at Mount Cuba. So I will find out the answer. Definitely reach out to me via email and I will have the answer for you.
Great. And Grace, this is an interesting question. Maybe you could speak to any advice on how to leverage your members as ambassadors for your organization?
Well, we really just try to keep our members well informed. We try to share information about all the decisions that are being made and about everything that's going on and make sure that they just are able to be ambassadors. We don't really have an official program, but we do find that they actually are very valuable ambassadors for us on social media. So a lot of times people who have gotten a member communication will correct the general public who have a comment about something on our Facebook page. That's always interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, social media is a great way to engage your fans, your most loyal audiences, and get them to rally around a cause or an initiative. Caroline, how are your members in terms of kind of being engaged? I know it's such a new program. Have you seen new people coming into the membership program than those who were previously involved in the season pass?
We've seen some. It's definitely most of them were previous season pass holders, but they are our biggest cheerleaders. I mean, recently we were up for USA Today's Best Botanical Garden, and our members came, out to help us vote and support us. And they do believe in our mission and the value and benefit of native plants. And so they're very vocal about it on social and in the community. And it's great. It helps drive our mission. We love our members.
Wonderful. Well, I think we are officially out of time now, so we'll stop there. Again, just feel free to connect with us after the session today. And Grace and Caroline, thank you so much for all of your expertise and stories today. And thank you to APGA. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. And that is all the time we have for this session. If you'd like to keep the discussion going, please click the Live Discussions tab on the conference website and start a topic. Just a reminder that today's session qualifies for 0.75 CFRE credit hours. We'd like to thank our presenters and all of you for being a part of today's session. At 3:05 Eastern, you'll have the difficult choice between 3 more wonderful concurrent sessions on education, conservation, and the living landscape, followed by our ending sessions on garden leadership and the student presentations at 4 Eastern to wrap up the day. Thanks again for attending, and we'll see you at the next session.